This is EMP 189, Unit 3, Cells. This section covers the AMP version of the National EMS Educational Standard, Sections 7 and 8, and Pathophysiology, Section 2. This material can be found in your textbook in Chapter 2 of your AAOS Anatomy and Physiology book. What are we going to try to learn today? We're going to describe the function of DNA, RNA, and ATP, name the organic molecules that make up the cell membrane and state their functions. We're going to state the arrangement of the molecules in the cell membrane, state the 5 functions of proteins in the cell membrane, and describe the cytoplasm. We're also going to describe how the cell membrane regulates the composition of cytoplasm, explain isotonic, hypotonic, and hypertonic solutions and their effects on the cell, describe the function of the nucleus, chromosomes, and cell organelles. We're going to define each of these cellular transport mechanisms and give an example of each in the body: diffusion, osmosis, facilitated diffusion, active transport, filtration, phagocytosis, and pinocytosis. We're also going to describe what happens in mitosis and meiosis and the importance of each. We're also going to describe the 4 major categories of tissues and give general characteristics of each type. We're going to describe the function of epithelial tissue and connective tissue and relate them to the function of the body or an organ system. And we're going to list the basic differences between smooth, skeletal, and cardiac muscle. We're going to discuss in brief the nervous tissue and list the organs made of nerve tissue. Describe the location of pleural membranes, pericardial membranes, and the peritoneum mesentery membrane. List the location of mucous membranes and state the functions of mucus, name membranes made of connective tissue, and name the levels of organization of the body, and explain each. We're also going to name the organ systems of the body, name the body cavities, their membranes, and examples of organs with each cavity. Explain the 4 quadrants of the abdomen and name the organs in each. We're going to discuss the relevance of understanding human system function and structure to conditions commonly found in the field. All right, let's get started. The cell is the basic building block of life. Just like the atom is the basic building block of matter, all the matter around us, the cell is really the smallest distinguishable unit of an organism. The human body contains about 100 trillion cells. All cells are specialized for particular functions. Protoplasm is the viscous, liquid, watery matrix that supports all the internal cellular structures. There's a minute mass of protoplasm in each and every cell of the human body. It provides a medium for intracellular transport of various substances such as nutrients, signaling molecules, ATP, and protein. We'll learn that ATP is if we remember from Unit 1, is adenosine triphosphate. It's the way in which your body stores and releases energy at the cellular level. The cell membrane surrounds the protoplasm. It gives structure to the cell. It's the boundary of the cell. It consists of fatty substances that separate the cell from its neighboring environment. Anything that's said to be extracellular is meant to be outside of the cell. When we use the term intracellular, we're referring to things that are inside of the cell membrane. The cell membrane is made up of a phospholipid bilayer. This phospholipid bilayer has hydrophobic heads which point out. It consists of a complete set of neatly arranged molecules arranged to alter its structure depending on the needs of the cell. Even though it's made up of a lipid base and is hydrophobic, it does allow water to pass through it. It provides a selectively permeable membrane, allowing some things to pass freely and other things to not pass at all. This allows the cell to exist in an aqueous environment, yet maintain its shape. The inside portion of the bilayer is uncharged and contains most of the lipid material, whereas the outside does have an electrical charge. And although it's attached to the internal fatty layer, it's more like water-like than fat-like. The outside portion enables the cell to live in an aqueous environment but still have the permeability properties of the lipid bilayer. Proteins periodically interrupt the liquid bilayer of the cell. You can see here on the diagram this graphical depiction. These are the proteins. These blue blue blobs here you see as they interrupt the membrane of the cell. Functions that are served by proteins in the lipid bilayer include transportation of materials across the membrane. They also can serve as signal receptors for neurotransmitters and other signaling devices. They can serve as channels for materials to pass through, including ion channels. Other structures composed mainly of protein include cell membranes, the various membranes of the body we'll talk about a little bit later, connective tissues, and muscles are mostly made up of different proteins. The permeability of the cell membrane is selective. It allows some things to pass and some things not to pass, and it changes its permeability based on the needs of the cell. This allows each individual cell to maintain homeostasis. We can see here in this diagram that small uncharged polar molecules are able to pass freely, such as water. Lipid-soluble substances such as hydrocarbons can also pass freely across the cell membrane. Water-soluble substances, large uncharged polar molecules like glucose, cannot pass through, and charged ions and electrolytes cannot freely pass through the cell membrane. What is meant by homeostasis? That's the maintenance of a stable internal physiological environment, including a stable temperature environment, a correct fluid balance between the fluid compartments, and a correct pH balance. If we remember, the pH range for humans is very narrow, and the normal range is 7.35 to 7.45.